Pleasure to welcome to the podcast, Christian Tomei. Christian, how are we doing today?
Awesome. I'm excited to be here. Grateful.
That's what I like to hear. Me too. Well, thank you for doing this. We tried to do it yesterday. My power went out. We had to reschedule. We're going strong today. So thank you for making the accommodations. Let's do it. I want to start with the story of you jumping into the goal for the very first time. You remember that?
Yeah, of course. So I believe it's second grade. I feel like this kind of same story a lot of lacrosse players go through is, it's the middle of football season. Coaches, the head coach of football teams, also the head coach of lacrosse team, he started to think about season. And, he asked me, he's like, "Hey, you ever play lacrosse?" I was like, "I don't even know what that is." I'm playing middle linebacker for my Pee Wee team. And he goes, "Well, we need a goalie." I was like, "Okay, I guess I'll try." So 2 weeks after, I think football season ended, we're starting to get ready. I go over to my buddy's house, which happened to be one of the friends of the head coach. And, he actually ended up going on to play at UNC and everything. And, I put on this gear that I've never worn before, this chest protector, like helmet, all this, I'm holding this stick. I was like, "What am I doing here?" And, we go hop in the backyard and, this kid, Will Nicholas, he's like a phenom at our age. Everyone knows him. He's the best at every sport. And then there's me holding this stick like half sideways trying to play goalie. And he's just ripping it on me. And, I just remember I probably saved like 2 shots out of, the 20 or 30 we took. But those 2, I just remembered I was like, this is like an exhilarating thing that like I don't want to let go. And I just remember the feeling I had when I saved the ball. And I was like, this is fun. So, that was the first time I ever hopped in goal. I never really got scared at all, which was why I also really liked it. And I think it also came from, playing linebacker, playing first base baseball, playing all these sports. But I just remember it was such a cool feeling playing it, because it's so different than everything else. And, from there on, it just grew.
I remember those feelings so well. I mean, it's now 20 years ago, and you said you didn't get scared, but there's 2 feelings that for me like really stick out. And one was the one you said of making that save, that rush of making the save, like your boys just go nuts. The other one, I got really scared. I remember the very first shot, like our backup goalie got injured, and they're like, "Damon, do you want to give it a try?" And he's like, "All right, just go stand in the goal. Like, no one's gonna shoot on you." And I guess like one senior didn't get the memo and ripped a shot to the corner. And then all of a sudden it was just like, "Whoa, wow. Like, what did I just sign up for?" But making it say, what a great feeling, right? But
my gosh.
So you think the not being scared of the ball to like skills or like a mentality that you learned on the football field. Talk to me about that.
So my dad played college football at Notre Dame Cathedral Latin. And, growing up, it was all football. It was, weightlifting, like this kind of like hardcore mentality, that he kind of put on me. And, I think I just remember, we would be going to games just playing like this heavy metal, like there's a little 12-year-old me ready to run through a brick wall. And I just think it was kind of the mindset I had, passed down, but also just my love for the sport. I do remember a couple of shots. It's funny, I still remember everything. I still remember the backyard we were in, the stick I was using. I don't even know if the brand probably still exists, but I do remember a couple of shots where, you kind of turn it a little bit, turning that torso, to the shot, but it was never, I was like, just never fearful of it. I just also think I was playing all these sports and, even playing tackle football at 12 years old, you're still, hitting other kids, playing first base, you're still seeing all the balls come at you. And I just think that's also why it's important to be in multiple sports, is because everything aligns somehow, some way, one sport aligns with another sport. And, some fears that you may have as a kid in one sport is the same thing as the other sport, that they both kind of equal out, and you don't have that type of thing anymore. So I do credit just kind of how active I was. And then, also, from my father helping me out with that, since he, went through it his entire life.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. Where did you grow
up? Jupiter, Florida. So yeah, a little South Florida, little area. We always have like, we always got, there's always 3-4 really powerhouse high schools in the area. One always ends up making it to the state championship, but just nice little area. Tons of lacrosse. It's huge now over there.
Yeah.
It's not what it like used to be. Yeah.
Love it.
It's like every house you see, there's a goal in the front yard, backyard.
Man, what the growth of lacrosse is amazing. I love that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I drove back through my hometown the other week, and like my high school, which obviously didn't have any lacrosse when I was going there in the 90s. Now, like, lacrosse fields and lacrosse goals out there. It's awesome.
It's cool to see.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, so like, your dad gave you that sort of, let's call it like the hard-nosed mentality early on. If there's a young kid or even a dad listening to this, that's like, all right, man, that's kind of the mentality I want to give my kid. Like, what tips would you give them? How could they go about like teaching that or learning that so they could pass it on?
Yes, sir. So I think the biggest thing is, obviously as a father, you kind of want to, it's one of those things like you want to teach them, but you want to take care of them. You don't want to be too kind, but you don't want to be too mean. And I think the best way of going about something like that is just putting them in uncomfortable situations. Like me as a kid, I remember my dad really wanted me to get into lacrosse, and it's something I never played, so I was scared to do it. But you hop in the goal, you do that uncomfortable, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, next sport, I was uncomfortable playing goalie, but I can do this now. And I think it's a big snowball effect when it comes to mentality as well. I'm constantly, from my father pushing me to do this, it's making me uncomfortable at a young age. It's not one of those things where you're in his ear screaming like, you have to play. Obviously that's not the right thing to do. But putting them in these scenarios, that's going to make them grow at a young age. So when they get to these levels of high school and, college, when the adversity is really about to hit, and, the anxiety, the depression, the being a backup, the failures are, waiting there for you with open arms, right? Like those times that built you as a kid are going to be what you can hold on to in those hard times. So, and, obviously it's like I said, you can't be screaming at them, like I would never do that with any of my goalies that I coach. But it's like you're putting them in situations that they're not thinking about. Like, like for example, you're not so good at off stick. Well, warm ups, we're just going to take some tennis balls, off stick, off stick, off stick, off stick. It's uncomfortable. In his head, he's like, oh, this sucks, but it's like the next day, he's like, this is getting easier. It's easier. So just really, being uncomfortable among uncomfortable things. So I think that's really what will push that mindset to become unbreakable.
I love that. That's spot on. Yeah. It's like you push yourself outside of your comfort zone and that's where you grow, right? Then like all of a sudden your comfort zone gets bigger and bigger. Like I used to be really nervous doing these podcasts or like presenting on camera or doing a number of things. And now like you push yourself to do it. And now like I'm more comfortable. So you got to find new ways to keep pushing yourself, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It's crazy. It's I think of everything like a snowball effect, and it's just crazy how it works because you don't think about it. Like I remember I took a public speaking class this year, and my first speech, I was like, I don't want to do this. I'm skipping class. I'm not going. I forced myself. It's going to make me uncomfortable. It's going to be good. And all of a sudden, by the end, I was applying for extra credit speeches, but I didn't even think about during it. I always thought it sucked, but it became easier because I was uncomfortable.
Yeah, love that. The other point that you made there about playing the other sports, about like different sports, I mean, they teach you like a lot of physical stuff, which is great, but also, just put it, different sports put you in different situations. Like I grew up and I was a wrestler, right?
Okay.
And like when you wrestle, like it's just you on the mat, right? And your entire team is looking at you and all eyes are on you. And so like when a lot of goalies ask me, like, how do I handle that pressure of like being in the spotlight where everyone's looking at me, where a mistake, that I make directly translate to a goal. And I'm kind of like, well, I learned how to deal with that already through wrestling. So,
exactly.
In addition to the physical thing, it can also teach you like, some mental aspects. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like, doing math over and over again. You're constantly repeating the same problems. You get to exam and it's, same question. It's like, wait a second, I know what X means in this situation. It's just, you fall back on everything that you hated doing. And it just helps you in the long run.
Yeah, love it. So weightlifting for you, like training in the gym, is still a big thing, still a big component of what you're all about. And that started at a young age, yeah?
Yes, sir.
Talk to me about the importance of the gym for you.
Yeah, of course. So I seriously started training about my sophomore year of high school. We had a gym called D1. I think they're a little bit spread out throughout the states now. A couple ended up going under. But it really combined athletics with weightlifting, which was something I haven't seen before at that age. And that really just grew my love. We had Tim Tebow come in and teach us. We had all these great athletes coach us throughout at this young age. And, that really started to grow. And, by junior year, all of a sudden I was so obsessed with just being in the gym. Whether, we had a playoff game my junior year. I think it was like the quarterfinals. We ended up winning. All I could think about was just going to the gym afterwards. And, I just made a beeline there. And it became such an obsession to do. Um, and, it ended up, I guess, we can get into this a little bit later, but it ended up kind of becoming a downfall for me. But it really did help me with everything when it came to lacrosse when I was doing it the right way.
Mhm.
And I even to this day, obviously, I still continue to weight lift, but I figured out my body and what works for my body to translate to on the field, which I think is a huge thing for some people, is because I talk to these high school kids, I talk to these young kids, and they're like, all right, I'm gonna go hit the gym, do some biceps, do some triceps, and call it a day. And it's like that's not what's going to translate to the field. And everyone just wants to go lift, everyone wants to bench the most, everybody wants to do this, everyone wants to do that. And it's just because there's a lack of knowledge in what really will step up your game. Doing
Mm.
stuff like hybrid training, which I really learned, which is go for a 5 mile run, then you're going for a workout. Just like lacrosse, you play 4 quarters, you know what I mean? And it's everything. It's a play that you're gonna have to make a hit, it's a play that you're gonna have to run 100 yards. And I think weightlifting's always been huge, but I just now start to really figure out how to utilize it to become a better goalie instead of just becoming a better weightlifter.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people that will reach out to me and ask, and it's like you got to find the middle ground with it. You can't let one go above another, or one's going to slowly fall. And they both have to help each other every time. So weightlifting's always been huge for me. I've always loved it. It's always held dear to me. It's something I've done since I was young, obviously.
Mhm.
But I had to realize, like, if I, since I do love it, and I love lacrosse with everything, I have to figure out how they, help each other in the long run. Because if not,
Yeah.
too much of one, too much of the other, you never know what could happen with the opposite.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Love it. What if there's young kids listening to this, like at what age do you recommend the young goalies start to look at training in the gym?
Yeah, so I think around the like sixth, seventh grade is the best. Now, I do say those ages, everything's going to be fundamentals, right? Like you're
Yeah.
working on squat without weight, you're doing everything without weight. But building that foundation at those ages, once you get to eighth grade, okay, now you're in a high school weight room where, your coach is counting your numbers, watching you, your players are there. I think building that foundation in those grades is huge, and something I wish I did a little bit better. Mainly because I went straight into it. You know what I mean? I was like, all right, I want to go see how much I can bench. Like this guy can do this, I want to do this. And that's not the way to do it. It's going to cause injuries. Your body's not ready for it yet. I didn't know how to eat, which is the biggest thing with weightlifting.
Right.
And so I was in there just destroying my body with nothing coming out of it. So those ages of sixth, seventh grade ages, building that platform, squats without weight, deadlifts, all without weight for form, benching, lighter weights, really getting your body ready for those, that seventh, eighth, ninth grade to really explode and become into, your body to get into like how yours going to be.
Love that. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I remember getting into the gym. I think I started around sophomore or junior year of high school as well. And I mean, me and my buddies would do like just bench, like 10 sets of
exactly. Yeah.
bench like every
Yeah.
single time.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, I did the same thing. It's you become so obsessed with the number and you
Right.
forget about what you're actually doing. It's like, all right, I want this weight, but wait, what am I doing chest? Am I like, what am I even working here?
Yeah, yeah.
So,
But now I train much more. I mean, I don't like play lacrosse anymore, but I train much more full body and
exactly.
I know so much more. And like you said too, the nutrition piece is
It's
huge.
huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, it's how your body recovers itself, and without that, you're just destroying your body. It's not nothing's gonna come out of it.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah,
Awesome. So did you play in high school lacrosse
yes,
goalie? Yeah.
yep.
And did you find some success right away, or tell me a little bit about your story? Because I know you got quite an interesting story.
Yeah. So high school came. I was in eighth grade, played at Independence Middle. We took middle school lacrosse in South Florida pretty seriously. So we went like 8-0 my eighth grade year. We all thought that was huge, right? Anyways, that summer, this was obviously before the rules, so anybody could commit at any age.
All right.
Um, and I remember that eighth grade year, I was like, I want to play college lacrosse. Like, this is what I want to do. I didn't really care where it was, but I just remember me. I was like, I want to do it. I want to post a picture on Instagram saying I did it. I want my parents to be proud of me, and so that's what I went with. So there was camps like 3D Blue Chip. Forgot all the other one. There was so many back then because this is obviously when people can commit. And so that summer going into freshman year, just did them all, just everything I could. And I think it was the last tournament of the summer, which was Blue Chip over at UMBC in Maryland. I played, phenomenal. I made the All-Star game. It was kind of where I set myself up. And I got home. I talked to Coach Petramala from Hopkins. I talked to Brown, I think it was at the time. I was talking to all these schools, and then in November of my freshman year, Ohio State called. And, I was originally born in Cleveland, Ohio. When I moved to Jupiter when I was like 2. So, but, family's there. I just loved the idea of being a Buckeye. So I was 14 at the time, November 18th. I think I was a month in the classes, 2 months in the high school classes. And then, I made a verbal commitment to Ohio State. And I thought that was awesome. But digging deep in my mind and thinking about the Christian that committed, I was just like, all right, I want to post it on Instagram. I want to post it on Twitter. I'm going to go tell this guy that didn't think I was good. It was just not for the right reasons. And I didn't, talk about it, I guess. And I didn't realize that was a bad thing to kind of be doing it for the hype, not really doing it for the love. So, that will slowly linger on, snowball effect, like I said, and everything else. But we had my freshman year, we had a great junior goalie, I believe he was at the time. And, I'm coming in as a freshman and I didn't win the job. I played one game that season. It was in the quarterfinals of, I think it was honestly just the first round of playoffs. But 2 days before our game, somebody took a shot when he wasn't looking in practice and hit the starting goalie in the helmet and gave him a concussion.
Oh.
So it was like he was just like looking over here and somebody shot it. And so I ended up getting the start. And, here's me, 14 years old. I'm like, oh my gosh, this team, just to give you an idea, they were ranked like 26 in the country. So they lost to like schools like Boys Latin, McDonough by like 1 or 2.
Yeah.
And there's me. The only shots I've seen were in this practice. And I was like, all right, here we go. So, I ended up making 18 saves and we won. And then from there, I was like, this sport is just what I want. Lacrosse is everything to me. So, after that game, that love came even deeper and deeper. Sophomore year, just had another great season. Junior year, had a good season. And then senior year was really when I started to like pick everything up. Obviously, went into college soon. The accolades started coming. I got invited to Team USA. I got invited to Under Armour All-American. All these accolades started piling up. And, I'm 18 years old, right? And that thought process I had when I was 14 of, okay, I get to post this on Instagram. I get to tell them I did this. And just like I said, it's snowball effect all 4 years, right? So now I'm on Team USA. Now I'm on Under Armour All-American. And I'm doing it almost just to show somebody I am somebody. And I didn't even realize it was coming, and it was like that mindset when I was 14, I had when I was 18 still, but now it's double the size, right? Mm-hmm. So, I had great success in high school and I worked really hard, but my mental side was not there. And it's one of those things I was scared to really show my emotions and tell people because I had a feeling I knew what was going on. And I think a lot of lacrosse players, young lacrosse players go through this. Like you want to commit to tell people, you want to commit to post on Instagram, see all these likes, see all these comments, feel appreciated. And I built up this big giant inside of me that just wanted attention. And it was almost to the point I was like, I'm playing goalie just to get attention. And, that's when the love started to pull all the way back.
Yeah.
And, I didn't realize it was really coming until college. So, high school was great, like I said, and I had great success. I had awesome time with my team and everything. And, just my mental state wasn't prepared, I guess. I never gave myself a chance to learn about it. I never looked into it. I never even thought about it, which sucks because looking back on it, it could have just taken me to do a simple Google search or to talk to somebody like, hey, why do I feel like I want to be somebody? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
when did you, if I could ask a quick question on that, when did you like notice that was happening, that you were playing for the wrong reasons? Because I hear that, I want the attention and like I was doing it for the wrong reasons, and it makes a lot of sense. I do, there is something to be said about like being motivated by wanting to prove people wrong. Like that can be a
Exactly. Yes.
really strong motivator. And so like
100%.
it is like a balance where like you don't
Yeah.
that you can't have that be like the only reason that you're doing it, because
Exactly. Yeah.
when it does go wrong, and like things will go wrong in this sport, like you'll have a bad stretch. It's like, do you have that love to stick it through, to stick with it, right? Or were you only doing it because it was cool or you wanted attention, and now it's like, nah, all right, I'm done. Anyway,
when it's not there.
the question is more like, because that's really strong self-realization, if you ask me, as a high school kid. So I was curious how that came to be, or when you noticed that.
So it's kind of crazy. I didn't realize this until I didn't have lacrosse in my life.
Oh, wow.
And yeah. So this is like getting into college now. I had a great summer, like I said, in high school. Played in All-American, was Team USA, doing all this, and then I get into Ohio State, and I'm like, I'm the guy. I don't care what anyone says. I'm not listening to anyone. Whatever. I'm gonna step in, make some saves, become a starter. Get some more clout, and that's it. And that's just the mindset I had, because that's the mindset I built from when I was 14. 15, just accolades. And I get to Ohio State, and I'm hit with a freight train of adversity, right? Because high school and college, like when it comes down to being independent and being your own person and like relying on what you kind of built yourself as, is when it really comes. So, I get to Ohio State, and now I have tutors. Now I have to do 3 hours of studying every single day, when I graduated high school with a 2.6 GPA. I probably studied 1 hour a week. I'm like, whoa, what's going on? Like, I'm here to play lacrosse. And I was just hit with all of this, with this fact that there's 5 other Christian Tomeis on this field that can play goalie 20 times better than I can. And it was like, it was just all this adversity that every freshman goes through, except when it hit me, I didn't prepare myself enough to when that would happen, that it crushed me, all the way down. So, my freshman year goes by, just a weekend, I'm already like, I want to go home. Because for Ohio State, we actually traveled to Portugal for it was in August, so it was in the beginning of the beginning of the school year, I guess. And I remember a weekend, I was like, I hate this, I want to leave. And not that I wanted to leave Portugal, I wanted to go home. I was already sick of it, because we're playing lacrosse over there, we're doing workouts that I've never done before, all this stuff. It's just hitting me, and I just was almost just like taking the blows, and just falling backwards. So fast forward, we start school. I just completely went under. So fall was tough. I ended up throughout the fall, just getting an idea, I gained 45 pounds, which led to a ton of injuries. I had Achilles problems, I had ankle problems, yada, 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 just because of my weight. And, that weight came from, like I said, not building my foundation of a mindset throughout all those times. So now I'm failing classes. That's one adversity that's sticking to me. I'm not making saves like I used to, because I have this extra weight, and, I don't want to play anymore. So it's just like, I'm letting all these things get to me, and I'm being a victim of it, if that makes sense. So, my freshman year was tough. It was just more of, I was just playing that victim card so much that it almost was like a mask of, did I really not love the sport, or was I just not strong enough in my head? You know what I mean? So it was, and I was like, okay, well, I don't want to look soft, almost, from like, I don't want to, I always taught to like be hard, do all this. I don't want to look like I quit. So I'm going to let this like other kind of side take effect of over the I don't love, or I love lacrosse. So it was tough. I went through a lot within myself. And, like I said, I ended up getting over 300 pounds when I was there, which didn't make anything easier. You know what I mean? After my first semester, I had a 1.7 GPA. Everything was, I think I was 5th on the roster at goalie. Every little thing that could have went wrong. You know what I mean? And just 4 months ago, I was the number 2 goalie in the class. So it was, Liam at 1, me at 2, and then, we had Tim, Marcio, and Logan at 4. These guys were big names, doing well at Maryland, doing well at Notre Dame, doing well at Hopkins. And then there's me. And it's like, well, okay, I'm not the issue. So like, what are they doing? You know what I mean? Something like, it can't be me. It can't be my fault.
Right.
And, that mindset is just what crumbled and crumbled and crumbled me. So, that was a COVID season, that freshman year in 2019. So, believe it or not, I was already suspended before COVID ended the season. I got suspended 3 times in that season just for skipping class, doing all this stuff. So season was over, just finished school up online during that period. But yeah, I mean, that was my freshman year, and
Wild.
it was something that I look back on, and it almost gives me chills just thinking about it and just thinking how far I let myself get somewhere just to try to be somebody.
Interesting. Yeah. And do you think it stemmed from just the 100% that mindset? Like if you had to go back and replay it and you had more of a mindset of like I'm not a victim, like I'm in control, like I love this sport, like those types of mindset changes, it probably would have
Yeah,
went very differently. Yeah.
100. It's almost something I think about every day, and it's almost like I just remember how I thought, right? Like, so for example, me and my roommate slept in for one practice, and I get the practice, and my mind immediately goes to blaming the coaches. And I
Mm.
didn't, but in the moment, I'm not, I'm just like, oh, it's his fault. Whatever. My alarm or my roommate's alarm didn't go off. It's his fault. I'm blaming. So that's what I'm telling the coaches, um, I'm not sure if you know Ohio State coach Nick Myers and, Tommy Dylan Sheridan, and they're not going to deal with anything. And I'm here like I'm still the guy, like, yeah, whatever, I slept in.
Yeah.
And it's just thinking back on it, there was no like other voice. It was like, all right, blame him. Okay, it's a coach's fault. Okay, it's my roommate's fault. The alarm didn't go off, and it's just crazy thinking that that's the voice I was listening to in my head. But at the same time, it's the same voice when I was 14 that was like, okay, like go commit to Ohio State, even though you haven't visited, because you want to post on Instagram. You know what I mean? Make this
Mm.
decision when you're 14 years old and your math homework's due in 2 hours, yet you're gonna make a 4-year commitment, because you want to post something. So I
Yeah.
just think it's from never opening up. It's a biggest thing is like, as men, it's tough because no matter how you're raised, no matter what, it's tough to really open up. And, because a lot of times society puts something on you that is different and it's hard to open up. It's hard to be true to yourself. And I never knew anything was wrong about it because I never talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's just it just built, but it's a 5-year thing. That little thing that was like one little thought in your head turns into 1,000, and all of a sudden it's like it's just all me. And then when it's not me, it's okay. It's your fault because it's not me. And it's something that will snowball effect if you don't catch it, you don't open up, you don't realize something's there. Um, but yeah, I mean, like I said, it was a tough year. It was an interesting
Yeah.
year just thinking on, and it's almost hard to think that was me. You know what I mean? You look
Sure.
back at that and you're it's like, how was I thinking like that? But yeah, it's just and it's crazy because one little mindset like that could turn everything else, you know, off, right? Like my grades off because of this mindset, my lacrosse ability off. Like I didn't even care about making saves anymore. It was to the point because I just wanted to blame people. You know what I mean? It's
Oh,
crazy to think about,
yeah.
and it's one of those things that I can't even fathom even ever having that mentality again, or how I even got it or let it get that big. Um, but yeah, and at the time, like I did love lacrosse, right? But this thing was bigger than that. It was so much bigger. It was like a bigger giant that was just crowding over. Do I actually love lacrosse? Or it was like really making me think I don't love lacrosse.
Yeah, man, that's powerful,
So
powerful stuff. What would
no,
you say to high school goalies out there listening to this right now who are about ready to go to college? Because they're when you get to college, you're on your own for the first time, right? Like you're navigating living that life with playing like competitive lacrosse. And it could be tough.
yeah,
Like, so there's a lot of adversity. Like maybe you're trying to go out, you're partying and
yep,
you're juggling a lot of things, right? And it could be a lot
yep,
of adversity. What would
yeah.
you say to them where they're at right now that could help them prepare for that,
Yeah.
that storm, if you will?
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things I would say, learn the quote regression toward the mean. And basically that just means for as long as there will be highs, there will be lows, but everything will end up coming back to normal. There's always going to be a balance. It's like for these goalies that are top tier high school about to go in these big colleges, you're just like me. You had all of these things. You had these accolades, you had your name, right? Like you're up here, you're barely seeing what's down here. You're not even, you're way over the ocean now. You're not even in the water.
Mm-hmm.
But when college comes, there's going to be that bottom, right? It's going to hit you like a tsunami, no matter like if no matter who you are, right? Everybody has something that can be their downfall. And I would just say like learn that quote, right? Like when there is ups, there is downs. Everything will balance out eventually. And having confidence is the biggest thing. Where it was something I really wish I could tell my younger self is, hey, have confidence in yourself. I read these Instagram comments when I was their age. I read these Twitter comments and I took it to heart. You know what I mean? And not for the good way. It wasn't like, okay, I'm gonna go prove them wrong. It was like, oh, you know what? Like, is he right? Should I have not let that goal in?
Yeah.
And have confidence in yourself. Confidence is the most powerful tool that you can equip yourself with, especially when it's going into college. And that's what coaches want to see as well. They want to see a confident young man hit that field, and not somebody that's just kind of there going through the motions. And when I was playing at Ohio State in Jacksonville my first 2 years, and there was people my age that were leaders and they were confident on the field within themselves. You see it right away. It's contagious, and that makes people that aren't confident like become the ones that are the haters, if that makes sense. So, and coaches will see that right away. You step into a school and you're a confident man with your grades, with your ability to play, like who you are, and you don't listen to what anybody says. It will take you to it will open doors that you will never see, that you never thought would open. When you just have that I guess who you are, you know what I mean, from a good standpoint. So
good tips. Good tips. Yeah. And then I guess the other two things coming out of your story that I would recommend is, like get used to like sharing and talking to people and like seeking that help,
of course,
it's so natural to do it on the lacrosse field, right? Like, hey, I'm gonna play goalie. I'm gonna get a goalie coach. And then all of a sudden you're fighting this battle up here all by yourself. Right.
Yep, exactly. And
go ahead.
Yeah. And like I said, it bleeds into everything. I never wanted help in school because I thought I could do it. I know I couldn't do it. I just didn't want help. I didn't want to open up, but that leads to the field. You know what I mean? Like, I know I'm not that good at off stick high shots, but I don't want help. I can figure it out myself. When in reality, like people, they're yelling at you, doing all this stuff because they care about you. You know what I mean? The coaches want to see you better. The professors want to see you better. And it's just about opening up, and it's putting yourself aside, becoming vulnerable, like back to what we said in the beginning, becoming uncomfortable, like asking for help. Even for me to this day, it's hard. You know what I mean? Like asking for help is very uncomfortable, but I know if I can ask for help and, with my math tutor, then I can ask for help with my goalie coach. If it's almost embarrassing letting in that shot, but I'm like, hey coach, like what did I do here? So, getting used to being vulnerable is huge.
Yep. Love it. Love it. And then the final lesson I wrote down here is, it's just that do not have that victim mindset.
100%.
That's incredibly dangerous. There was this quote that I had picked up, which is tell yourself, I am the problem. I am the problem, right? And that kind of like that, even maybe you're not, right? But that helps you avoid that mindset of like, well, my roommate's alarm didn't go off, or like it's the coaches, they're not starting me, and like, blaming somebody else. It's all right here.
Yep, exactly.
And start to power that mindset.
Exactly, and it's huge. And one quote that actually hit me a lot, it was actually around this time last year, is Trevor Lawrence came out in a postseason speech, and I think it was after he threw a few interceptions, and he was telling about the mindset he developed, and he was just like, good, whatever happens in his head, he just says good, right? Like, I just let in 8 shots in the first 5 minutes, good. Like there's nothing you can do about it, right? Like nothing at all. If you start to point yourself, if you start to act like the victim, like, oh, the defender didn't slide, I let up a goal, right? Like one thing is, I always tell my defenders, I was like, it's none of our faults, right? I could have stepped a different way. I could have saved it. Yeah, you could have slid, open up your hips more. It's none of we all could have done something better. It doesn't matter about the goal. And when you really build that mindset of, hey, like, what can I do better, right? Instead of what can he do better, it builds you almost with armor of when the adversity is going to come, because instead of, taking it in and kind of letting anger out. You take it in and kind of learn from like, what is it? And then come out with something even better.
Love it. Love it. That's awesome. And then you gained 45 pounds. What was was like eating? Was that kind of like a fallback? I saw
Yeah.
I saw a reel that you posted watching some old
Yeah.
saves of mine. That's a thick boy out
Yeah.
there.
That was funny. Yeah. So it was like a coping
Because
thing
you're
for
a
me.
big dude too, right? I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
you got to be a force out there. But anyway, go on.
Yeah. It was. So I walked in at Ohio State about 260 and I walked out at about 305. And during this time is like, like we've been talking about with the mindset. Well, it was just there was no mindset, right? So something bad happened. All right, like what can I make to feel better? As sad as it sounds, it's what happens when people get really addicted to drugs. It's like, how do I feel better, right? Like what can make up for this loss? But that's how I was with food, right? Like bad practice or bad grade. Okay, what can I do to comfort me, right? Be comfortable. It seems like it's always the word we get back into is trying not to be comfortable, but that's what was comfortable for me. And that's what I knew, right? So bad thing happened. Okay, food. Bad thing happened. Food here, food. And you don't think about it at all. Like you don't think about it. I've helped people lose tons of weight and I dig into their mind when I'm working with them. They don't think about it, right? Like one meal. It's just constant, but you're trying to fill a void that can't be filled unless you dig deep within yourself and fill it with, positivity through thoughts and through the way you're talking to yourself. So for me, like I said, it was a way to cope because 45, they could say the freshman 15, which is normal. You see it, but I was like 50, right? Like, and it's like 5 degrees in Ohio too. I'm wearing like 20 layers every day. So I didn't really even see it, to be honest. And it, until a year later when I really saw it and I kind of tried to dig into my brain a little bit, I noticed what was going on because after I left Ohio State, I went to Jacksonville. Actually, the summer between Ohio State and Jacksonville, I entered the transfer portal. I ended up transferring. I lost like 60 pounds.
Wow,
So the discipline finally started to come in that summer. But I was doing it for how I looked, right? Again, like we said, I'm doing it for something that's not to build my mindset. It's for something else. Now I'm losing weight to have this body. So I'm all of a sudden like transferring one bad mindset to another bad mindset, right? So exactly. So that summer, I lost 60 pounds. I went to Jacksonville at about 210, or I'm sorry, like 230-ish. Probably the best shape I was in my whole life up until then. And I'm so ready. I'm like, all right, we had like a 2-mile test, right? 300 tests, all this stuff. And I was like, yeah, whatever. Like, I'm in shape now. I can do it. But I never built my brain, right? Like the mindset wasn't built at all. So doing that 2-mile, yeah, my body was so ready for it, but I quit the second that adversity hit. Because you know what I mean? My body could have done 100 of those. The way, the shape I was in, everything could have done 100, but I never took a time to open up to talk about my mindset. And at Ohio State, I struggled with a lot of depression, with a lot of anxiety, a lot of just mental things. And that's stuff I always put aside, right? Like I never wanted to open up about it. And now we're dealing with the same issue in a different body, in a different environment, but there's still something that's lingering, right? Like I still can't run this 2-mile because some reason it's not hard, but once it gets a little bit hard, I'm done. I quit. You know what I mean? It's coach's fault that I'm running 2 miles. And it was crazy. I still remember back when that mentality hit again. And I just went, I jumped into its arms, so I had something about me. I wanted it again. That whole summer I was really disciplined, did really well. But once that adversity hit, I was like, okay, here we go again, and after the first semester, I quit lacrosse. I was done. And I remember too, like I said, like the decision I made to quit lacrosse, there was no decision there except for that voice saying, just go home and lift weights. You'll have fun. That was not the other thought of, hey, you're giving up your life. You're giving up the last 10 years that you worked so hard for. You're giving up that Team USA. You're giving up this, your D1 dreams you had as a kid. No, the one thought I could only think of was, okay, go lift some weights, have fun, wake up at 12 p.m. Hey, you don't have to run. You know what I mean? That's what brought me there. And it's crazy to think from age 14 to 20, I never talked about that once. That mindset that slowly became into a huge monster. And it's just crazy. And after Jacksonville, I I went about 2 years without touching a stick. I was working 3 jobs at one point. I mean, on days I didn't like, there was no drive at all, and it was bad. And I remember 6 months after I quit, like me and my girlfriend go into a vitamin shop, and there's these 2 kids with local high school lacrosse shirts on, right? And they come up to me and they're like, "Hey, you look really familiar." And at this time, I'm like heavy bodybuilding, like I'm this big dude. I'm like 260, but I got a lot of muscle on me. And he's like, "Did you go to Ohio State? Did you go to Oxford?" Trying to figure it out. And then they basically go on to tell him, they're like, "What happened to you?" You know what I mean? Like, we all used to look up to you, but they're kids, so they don't know like how they're saying it, like what it really means.
Right.
And they're like, "What happened?" And that stuck with me so much. I remember getting into the car and my girlfriend's like, "Hey, what's wrong?" And I was like, I don't know, like something's not right. Like I let something go that means so much to me. And I didn't really think about it because, again, 2 years, I went about a year and a half, 2 years without touching a stick. And then, I was working one of my jobs, and I had a bunch of high school buddies actually show up because it was at a hospital. And I remember it was a valet job, actually, so I was like parking cars and stuff. And this is what I did for a living now. And a bunch of buddies showed up, and they all look at me like, "Is that Christian? Like, the number 2 lacrosse goalie in the world?" And I was just, it hit me right there. It hit me, and I was, something like came over me. You talk about these like lights or these epiphanies, but it was like that was mine. Something hit me, and it was just like, get up, go do something right now. That day, the next day, I quit all my jobs. I called local NAIA school, Keiser University, where I went last year, and I was like, "Hey, like, this is my name. I've done this in my lacrosse past. I haven't played in 2 years. I Can I just have an opportunity, right? Like, it's anything. I finally put my ego aside. I finally put everything aside just because I realized what I gave up, right?
Yeah.
And thank God for Coach Patrick Johnson of our Kaiser. He gave me an opportunity. I barely got into the school. I think my total GPA from Jacksonville, Ohio State was like a 1.8 total GPA. So I got my opportunity, right? I had no jobs anymore. I have nothing. Like, I'm sacrificing everything. I'm putting everything on the line for this, like, to do it all over again. But now I'm starting from scratch. Like, there's no more Christian Tomei anymore, right? It's just this kid that loves lacrosse. And I was like, okay, what did I do wrong before, right? And I did research, and I finally started to open up. I finally started to really realize what was wrong. I started reading these books on how to grow a better mind, how to be mentally strong, like just one thing after another. So instead of going to that food, right, to cope with it, well, when advisor hit, I went to my books, or I went to talk to my girlfriend, or I went to talk to a specialist, somebody. I was opening up. I was being vulnerable. I was being uncomfortable. And that just soared me, right? So in the fall, I did take 24 credit hours to be eligible in the spring.
Wow.
To give you an idea, that's obviously like basically 2 full-time jobs.
Right.
And I remember when I got told that, I was like, let's do it. I don't care, whatever it takes, right? So I ended with a 3.4 GPA after that semester. I probably didn't get off my computer all day, every day, but I loved it, right? All I want to do is just get back in the goal. And if I failed one class that fall, lacrosse went away. It doesn't exist anymore. So I was all in, right? So, we get through fall. I got 24 credit hours. Like, we're good, right? We're ready to play. And, I'm mentally where I want to be now. And, I was just, the love was there again, right? And now these voices that are kind of coming in a little bit, like the old voices, this love for the sport and this mindset I built stepped on it, right? That's what I'm saying. It's the same thing with weightlifting. It's the same thing with being a goalie. That foundation you're going to build, I promise you, is going to just become what's like your saving grace when you get to these hard times. And I started this whole season. I woke up at 2:30 in the morning to go train. So I was waking up at 2:30. I would run for an hour from about 2:45 to 4. It's crazy talking about it. I lifted weights from 4 to 6, and then we had practice from 7 to 9. But I used to go out in the field to train before practice, just goalie stuff, like pipe to pipe, like arc block type stuff.
Yeah.
And that turned into people noticing it, right? Like people were like, hey, well, that's kind of cool that it's coming out an hour early, right? And so now all of a sudden I have this morning crew coming to shoot on me an hour before practice every day at 6 a.m. I've already been up for 4 hours. I'm just ready. And that's something I want to get into as well about being like a leader and stuff, especially as a goalie. But practice goes by. All I can think about is getting good grades. All I can think about is training because I just want to get to that Christian Tomei that I knew I could be when I was younger, before the Christian Tomei that just wanted accolades, that just wanted to be loved, I guess, because I didn't want to open up. Yeah. So I was on average training 9 hours a day during the season this year. It was all I ever wanted. And, grateful for my team and everything. We won the national championship this year. And it was just an awesome feeling. And it's just like building that mindset, though, is something that has carried into every aspect of my life, to this day. Obviously, this is only about a year ago, but it's like the way I wake up in the morning, the drive I have to make my bed, the drive I have to do the dishes, the things that suck. When it comes down time to go do 2-on-1s, which is the worst goalie drill ever, it's fun. It's love because I've become so comfortable with being uncomfortable. And it's the mindset that I finally shifted to doing those 2-on-1s. And if a goal goes in, it's not their fault, right? It's not the coach's fault. This drill's stupid. It's what could I have done there? Oh, I could have stepped a little bit like less than overextending. I didn't have to do a split there because I wanted to look cool. I started to realize that because, waking up, you don't have to make your bed, right? Like you don't have to do the dishes. I mean, you're gonna have to do it eventually. You don't have to do it then, but you keep pushing it off. It's just like goalie. So once I started doing that, I'm waking up, I'm making my bed, I'm excited, and just doing those little things made my goalie work so much. It just evolved to a whole nother level I never even expected to get to. But it's crazy. It's insane because all sports are mental, and it's not talked about enough. And that's what I really want to share my story and share everything, is because like everything's going to hit you. Adversity, depression, everything's going to hit you. It's waiting for you. But are you going to be strong enough to hold it and be bigger than it, and to work harder than how bad everything is? So yeah, I mean, I know that was a lot, but that's kind of like
well, first of all, thank you for sharing that story. That's amazing story. And I'm sure, I'm sure, congrats on like digging out of that hole, first of all, right? Because there's a lot of stories that end, at the valet job, where like that's where it ends, right? And you never develop that mental fortitude to dig yourself out of it. So thank you for sharing that, and congrats on getting out of it. And so really the motivator, if we had to like boil it down, was like you realized you had lost lacrosse. Like the lacrosse was sort of taken out of your life. And I think that can be a very good, I tell people like, to live with gratitude and just to have like so much gratitude that you're playing such a beautiful game with your friends. And I think that's like, because once it's gone, like you then realize like, man, I can't believe like it's out of my life, and that can really drive you. So you don't have to wait. You don't have to wait for that. Just be grateful that you're playing it now, right?
100%. There was a great quote by so my FCA coach Drew Wardlow told us. So Tom Brady, after he won like, I don't know, his third championship, whatever, third Super Bowl, he's on an interview and they ask him, they're like, how do you feel? Right? Like, you just won your third Super Bowl, you're the greatest of all time. He goes, that's it? Like, is this everything I worked for? You know what I mean? And they're like, Tom, you just won the Super Bowl. You drive these nice cars. You got this nice house. And he's just like, this is all I'm feeling. And it just goes to show that the love is the only thing that will stand, right? Like, all these guys that won a championship, like these trophies collect dust, right? Everything collects dust. The accolades, all this stuff you're going to earn collects dust. People forget, you forget. When you love something, when you love lacrosse, it matters more. Now, like, I love lacrosse so much, just going out and hitting the wall feels the same as going to play a huge game for me, because at the end of the day, it's lacrosse and I love it. And I lived without it. And, I was in shambles living without it. That comes to a point where you have to take yourself out and stop worrying about winning, all this stuff. Like, just love and play the game, because that's the only thing that's going to sustain over your life, So you're going to remember the memories with your boys. You're going to remember the memories practicing, like all these, that's love, right? So it's just
Yeah.
crazy hearing somebody like Tom Brady say that. He's like, "This is it," and we're all like trying to be Tom Brady. But
Right.
if you realize at the end of the day that if you just love the sport and you love to do it with all your heart, you have gratitude of just being able to play. I mean, the amount of people that wish they could play lacrosse, the amount of people that wish they could walk, um, just hold a stick.
Right.
When you realize like that's what matters in life, the universe just gets out of your way. You know what I mean? Because you're playing it from something deeper than anybody can imagine.
Right. And the challenges that we talked about this, the challenges that you get hit with all of a sudden are like way different. Like you know what to do, or they don't hit you the same way, right? Like
Exactly.
it's all up here. I love it.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
Cool. Let's
Goalie too. It's the only thing with goalie. It's all mental.
I know,
That's why
right?
it's crazy just building this mindset because goalie is just the biggest mental thing there is.
I know. Let's talk about the leadership piece. You wanted to hit on that a little bit.
Yeah,
I'm a firm believer that goalies, the best teams that I know have always had goalies who are the leader, who are a leader
100%.
out there. What
100%.
what when you think about leadership, what comes to mind for you?
Yeah. So the way I personally have never been like I'm never gonna scream in the excuse me, I'm never gonna scream in the locker room type guy. I'm not gonna get in people's face.
Right.
I'm not like the Ray Lewis guy where I'm in the huddle like screaming at everybody. The way I realize is to be the best leader that Christian Tomei can be. And it's a big thing is realizing the best that you are. We're all different. Just like every goalie is different. You're gonna have a different stance than every goalie. You're not, don't try to be somebody else. But the way I realize I'm the best leader is leading by example by doing things, right? By showing a contagious work ethic. So, like I said, when I showed up an hour, 2 hours before practice, people were like, "Holy crap, that's kind of cool, right?" And then they started to show up, right? People
Yeah.
started to show up. It's leading by example. It's showing contagious work, contagious characteristics. Team lunch, you're picking up everything after. You're pushing in your chair, you're pushing in other people's chairs. Your teammates notice that, right? Like
Yeah.
a lot of guys, especially freshmen coming in, it's one of those things where it's like, it's almost like they have a mentality that's like, it's too cool to, or they're too cool. It's a too cool mentality. Everyone goes through it. You got to show everybody it's not too cool to lower yourself to clean the floor, to, help people out, clean up the mess so the janitor doesn't have to clean it up. Do these things that, it becomes contagious and are good characteristics, like I said. So, when it comes down to goalie, after a goal or whatever it is, especially, when you're obviously in a game or practice, the defense wants to hear from you, right? Like we're goalies, we see everything. Like you said, we're the leaders of the team, it's the quarterback of the team. They want to hear from you. And if they don't, you know what I mean? If they're not hearing what you're saying, from a constructive criticism type, I guess way of speaking, they're not gonna look at you as a leader, right? So like, especially after goal, bringing everybody in, be like, hey, what could we have done, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the one side wasn't really there, but the one side was good enough. What about the two side? We had no two side. Okay, so now we're gonna do this, and then I'm gonna step a little bit better on this shot, or I'm gonna have my hands out a little bit more, or whatever it might be. And the biggest thing with becoming a leader is you point the thumb, like you said. You point like
Right.
you put it on you, right? A
Right.
leader is somebody that's going to take the adversity, take it all, right? The goals, the pain, let me soak it up, right? So you guys can enjoy the feeling of everything, right? So, being a leader for like especially these young goalies is, this, like I said, it comes down to confidence, right? You need to have confidence in yourself to do any of this. But become a leader by just showing who you are, I guess. And when you're in goal, soak up all the adversity that you can and come out with something better, right? Like at the end of the day, defense doesn't want to hear a goalie that's going to be screaming at them like, "You didn't slide," like, you know what I mean? They're going to break down on you. That's how humans are. Nobody's going to respond well to you screaming in their ear. Like they know they screwed up. They want to hear like, okay, what did I do? As goalies, we see what you did, right? Tell them what you did. That's the best way, as being a goalie, because we're seeing it, like I said, and nobody wants to be screamed at for, like, because they know what they did. I mean, it's a time and a place, obviously, it's tough love, but be there for them and show them that you care and that you're willing to take their adversity and their pain and come out with something better. And that's somebody that's going to want to play for you. Like
Yeah.
that's, you want your defense to love you. You want they're the ones standing in front of you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Show them you love them and, just basically take the pain from everybody else soak it up, and, overpower it, right? And that's the type of leader that your teammates are going to respect.
Yeah, I love that. And the beauty of that approach too is like you don't need seniority to act that way, right? Like you can do that, day one, as a freshman, not knowing anything, because you're not really stepping on anybody's toes.
Yeah, exactly.
You're just doing things the right way, treating people with respect, like earning that trust. And that's a great part of leadership. And then when you do get more senior, like now when you're the respected senior goalie on the team, then maybe, if someone's slacking off during practice, maybe you are that, maybe you are that guy that'd be like, come on, man, let's go. We need more out of you, right?
Yeah. And the biggest thing is you can only be a good leader when you care, right? Like you got to care. And that's from something within. You got to care about other people more than yourself. There's a time in your life where you need to take yourself out, and it's not about you anymore, right? Nothing can be about you. It's almost like just you just don't exist. That's the mentality I love playing as a goalie. Is I'm nobody, right? Like that save meant nothing. That game meant nothing. I'm nobody, right? And I want to make you guys somebody, type thing, like living for others. You know what I mean? And that's what makes a great leader. You're a freshman and you go in with all these older guys and you're confident and you show you care about them and you care about winning. I mean, yeah, some people will hate. I mean, everybody hates, but at the end of the day, they will respect you. And at the end of, everybody, respect is what you want as a leader, and that's what you give as well. You take it and you give it. And you walk in there as a freshman goalie. Obviously, goalies, we have to be leaders, and you be confident, and you tell people, what they're doing wrong and what to do better, and you care about them. And they're going to look up to you, and everyone's going to respect you.
Love it. Love it, man. Awesome. Yeah. What's next? What's next for you, Christian? What's the next challenge on your plate here? What do we got?
Yeah. So it was crazy. After winning the national championship, like, I get home and I'm like, well, do I wake up at 3 a.m. anymore? There's no practice.
Dude, first of all, how did you do that? What time are you going to bed then?
Oh, dude, it's crazy too, because with all the workload. So actually in the spring, I was taking 17 credit hours because I want to, with the lack of my other school credits, I wanted to fill up as much as I could. And so I'm still taking 7 credit hours. And it was crazy. Like, you would think, a lot of people are like, did you fall asleep at like 8:39? I'm like, dude, it was like 11, 10:30 most of the time.
Wow.
And I just, like I said, the love and the mindset I have now, I don't need an alarm clock. I mean, you can ask my girlfriend. It was fun. 2:30, I'm up. My body just got used to it because that's what I told my body to do, right? Like I was like, we're waking up. You're tired. You're not tired. I don't care. You know what I mean? We're going, because you have people that look up to you at this point. You know what I mean? And that was the biggest thing. I took myself out of the picture, and I was going through my phone and looking at all these texts when I was younger, like kids that put up who they want to meet one day, and my name was on there, and I was like, there's people out there that look up to what you do. Right. So do I deserve to go sleep in for another 2 hours? Like, no, you know what I mean? Like, this kid wants to be like me, I guess. So it's bigger than me. Like I said, as a goalie, you got to take yourself out. And that's what drove me to wake up. I mean, I remember waking up, and there was times where I needed like my girlfriend to push me out of the bed. And I remember I made this thing that if I can't wake up, I just drop out of the bed. So I like smack myself on the floor and then I'm awake. You know what I mean? It was tough, bro. But I mean, your body will do what you tell it to do. A week later, waking up at 2:30 was normal. And I just remember after like I was saying, that national championship, we're going to bed, and I'm like, I don't know, do I have to wake up? And then I couldn't wake up any later than that. So now I'm like, I don't want to practice. I'll just sit here trying to make myself useful at 3 a.m. until I can finally get my sleep schedule back to normal. But yeah, so I decided to transfer from Keiser University shortly after the season. I want to chase what I kind of left behind in the NCAA. Nice. And I've always been dreaming about that NCAA Final Four, those rings. So I'm headed over to Belmont Abbey for the next. I will graduate in the spring of 2026. So I don't know how. I mean, I graduated high school 2019, so I guess somehow there's always ways to get around eligibility and make more for yourself. But Yeah, I mean, that's the next challenge is just doing it at this level and, bringing the mentality I learned from this past year, and bringing it and making it a contagious thing in the locker room, and just becoming, continuing to be uncomfortable in these situations. It's going to be harder. It's cold here, right? Like, it's not like Jupiter, Florida. That's uncomfortable. There's all these things that are going to be uncomfortable, and I'm more than grateful and humbled to be able to experience those and be able to use those to become a better man and goalie.
Love it. Love it. Well, good luck at Belmont Abbey. We were
Thank
chatting
you.
before we hit record. I know Sully pretty well and kind of watched some Belmont Abbey games. So I've been looking forward to watching you again next season.
I'm excited.
We haven't really even talked to anything about, the lacrosse goalie technique, but,
I know,
but that's fine. This could be a mental game episode. But I did want to hit on a little bit your sponsorship with Signature. Talk to me a little about that, because I've seen a lot of videos that you've done with them. That's just like, here's some awesome drills, and like just seeing you work out there is kind of cool. So talk to me about that.
Yeah. So, they reached out shortly after, I believe, the national championship, kind of just posting it on social media. My name started to get out there a little bit. And they reached out, and it was actually in the works for about a month or two, discussing like what we're going to do with like content creating and all this stuff.
Was it Dan, by the way? I've spoken with Dan.
Yeah. So actually it's funny. Dan, we grew up next to each other, in Jupiter.
Cool.
Yeah. So he's awesome. Dan's got an awesome story too. And you can check it out over on their website. I believe he talks about it a little bit. But we kind of came to something where like, hey, like, let's use your story and like your knowledge to kind of show everybody, things not just about goalie, but about mental, the stuff that's not talked about, right? But also the stuff us goalies and us lacrosse players need to know. So, I'm kind of like splitting it up, trying to do a few videos where it's like drills, like, hey, like as a goalie, you want faster hands, you want faster feet, your stance needs to be better, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Here's some stuff for that. I have a ton of videos that are about to come out with that as well, but also a ton of videos that are going to touch on a lot of things we touched on that isn't talked enough about goalies, the mental game behind it. But yeah, it's been awesome, working with them, and they're super supportive and great with ideas and stuff, and it's just like, I love doing this thing now. Like, I'm starting to love like making content and making videos. And it's funny, like, because I don't know if you know Mitch Pelkey. He played at Ohio State, does the YouTube and all that.
Yep.
Not
personally, but yeah, obviously I know his stuff. Yeah.
It's funny because we grew up together because we were committed to Ohio State around the same time. I see the like the softwares he uses, the cameras he uses, and I'm just starting to kind of do this. I'm over here using iMovie on like that hasn't been updated in 5 years, using my cell phone. And it's funny. It's something that's cool. And, I'm excited to just get all this content out as well, and kind of just show the goalies my knowledge I've grown over this 100 years, it feels like, of playing goalie. But I'll also talk about the stuff that isn't talked about enough.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Well, thank you for doing that. I know, like,
of course,
I've been doing it for a long time too, and I love doing it. And like, so many goalies, even from the US, but especially like international, like reach out and be like, dude, this is all I got. This is all I got to learn this position. And thank you so much for putting it out there. And it's amazing. So yeah, keep doing it. I follow any goalie content I can. I love it.
It's awesome.
I just use an iPhone and iMovie, so don't hate on that. That's all you need, baby. That's all we need.
It's gritty. It's blue collar. I love it. It makes you grateful for even you be able to use anything. But yeah, I think a lot of people too is like the knowledge there too is sometimes their page is the only thing they're ever going to see about goalie. Like StoryRad or my account. So it's producing stuff like that they're going to hold with them and be able to actually use to become a better goalie, because you never know if they're going to even your account may be the only thing they ever see, like you said. So it's cool making stuff other people are going to use, and it like I said, it builds that mindset of taking yourself out of the picture and being selfless, and it builds good character, helping others and supporting others in their journey.
Yeah, well, it is really, for me, the reason why I do what I do. Like, it's so easy when you do online business and even a lot of things in life, to be like, get into imposter syndrome, where it's like, dude,
Yeah.
I never played D1 lacrosse. Like I never played in the pros. Like I never like, who am I to teach these goalies like how to do it?
Yeah.
And then I go back and I look at this folder and it's like got videos in there too of like testimonials of like, Damon, thank you
Yeah.
so much for it. I'm like, all right, cool. Like we're making a
Yeah.
difference here. Never
Yeah.
forget that.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
mental, right?
Doesn't matter who you are. Yeah. I mean,
Right.
that's a huge thing. Like people think, you see these comments all the time of like guys that never played, I don't know, quarterback talking about how they don't deserve to talk about quarterback. But it's, you first of all are playing at a super high level. They still play the sport. They still work and do their research just as much as anybody else. So,
Yeah.
your voice matters no matter who you are.
Yeah, 100%. Love it.
So,
Lax Goalie Rat showed up on a Mitch Pelkey video. He was interviewing this goalie.
Yeah.
A high school, I think it was a high school goalie at like some camp or like big tournament. And the high school goalie was like, high school goalie said, I watch more Lax Goalie Rat videos in history class than I watch history videos in history class.
That's awesome. By the way, so it's funny because I was looking through my like YouTube on history because I'm like, I watch a lot of goalie videos, especially like before games. And it's crazy because I was looking back at it and all of them were your videos. And I was like, that's crazy because I didn't even notice at the time because they're usually like highlights from like the Final Four in 2015. I don't really look at the account. I just press on the video and, start it up. And I'm like, because that's a big pregame ritual of mine is to watch some highlights and they were all by you. So I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah. Well, thank you, man. I love watching lacrosse,
Yeah. It's awesome.
All right, Christian, that was amazing, man. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Good luck in the rest of your collegiate career and your lacrosse career. If you had to leave the goalies with the final piece of advice, what would that be?
Yeah, like I said, be confident. Know who you are, right? Like, build your mindset. Go read books. Go dig deep into something you're uncomfortable with. Become vulnerable with that. Like I read my first book last year when I decided to make the change in my life. It was the first book I've ever read. Go do something like that. Go look up how do I grow my mindset online. That stuff will translate to your goalie game so much. Sometimes that stuff's gonna be better than going, taking shots. So, dig your head into stuff that's tough to dig into. Get your reps in. Obviously, do extra training. The biggest thing I say is the way I look at it is, if like in order to become a great goalie, you need to be doing that extra stuff every single day. Like go take those shots after practice. Go take those shots, at night. Like whatever it may be, it will work out so much in the long run. Those games will become effortless no matter what. And just like I said, just be confident in yourself. Like know who you are and lead that into your college, lead that into your high school team, and become a leader through the way you've built yourself and the person you are. And everybody will fall behind you. And your team, not just you, but your team will see greatness. And that's what us goalies are here for. Being leaders, like you said. So be the goalie everybody want. Your teammates want. Be that voice they want to hear. So,
Christian, thank you so much, my man.
Of course, thank you so much. That was awesome.